Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is July the 7th of 2021. It's our first edition of Weekly Manga Recap in the summer month of July on the most 3 days after America Day ever. I don't know. I don't even care about it.
I wouldn't look
fireworks. Hate them.
I'm not like, I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, I hate fireworks, hate everything about them. I'm not quite to that level. I would be okay with 4th of July fireworks if it was the fucking 4th of July and that was it. But for some reason in my neighborhood, and maybe it's true for everybody, 4th of July is a week-long celebration where you just freak the shit out of my dog for 7 days straight every night. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. It is 3 days before the 4th of July. And then sometimes I'm like, it is July 7th. There is no more need for fucking fireworks.
A hurricane blew through here last night, and before it arrived, people were setting off fireworks. What are you doing?
That does sound like peak Florida, to be honest.
Florida thing. I was looking up stuff online because for historian's sake, we are recording this the day after Hurricane Elsa made landfall in Florida. It's a weak storm. I hope that everyone was safe enough that everyone's fine. But just because it was weak, you should not take things lightly when it comes to hurricanes. But anyway,
I'm really curious to find the one goober scientist who was like, I have no way to tell when these things happened. I will reference this manga podcast to establish date and chronology for all of my experiments.
Oh, and if you are looking for the clue in the Mona Lisa, it is in quadrant E7. That is where you must look for it, Tom Hanks.
But you're looking at the wrong Mona Lisa. That'll throw him off the trail for a little bit. Get the treasure necklace. We know where the clue is. Let's get it. We'll be rich.
No matter which one you're looking at.
It's all the wrong ones.
I was looking at Elsa news, and I was trying to find.
Well, don't just type Elsa into Google. Safe search off, right. Nick. That's not going to help.
All that flooding damage is terrible to look at. But so I just kind of I'm trying to find a particular resource because I like the way that their map and projection looks, and I could not find it. But in the midst of my search, I came across this one for this model who was doing a shoot on the beach, and Hurricane Elsa driven storm clouds are in the background behind her, and she just like, thanks Elsa for the awesome backdrop. That it will kill you. Don't do that.
Do you ever wonder at what point Metacalypse became not satire? At what point Metalocalypse just became an honest to God, an earnest lens into the world we live in?
Well, having lived in Florida my entire life, I know that that's been a thing since before Metalocalypse, unfortunately. Okay. Hurricane parties are a thing, so.
Well, ain't no party like a hurricane party, so.
Because the hurricane party don't.
Yeah. Then you have a stop sign in the chest.
Yeah. So we read a manga for this week.
Nick, we're saying all these jokes and doing all these tangents because we have to come up with something interesting to talk about while we talk about Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver. There's not much. It's like a checklist was somewhere, and they were like, you definitely got to hit HeartGold, SoulSilver at some point. Oh, sorry. You're good.
Yes. I lost connection very briefly there. But HeartGold and SoulSilver chapters, which ran in 2010 to coincide, of course, with the Pokemon HeartGold and SoulSilver games. People may recall when we covered the Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum chapter that I said, this is the last that I've read. I don't have any familiarity with the series after this point. If I had, I might have said, yeah, we could probably just skip HeartGold and SoulSilver. Like it's not bad. It's just there's not a lot to talk about, and there's very little notes because it's characters that we're already familiar with. A lot of the cast beyond the protagonists are the least memorable characters from the games that you can think of. The villains of this story are the Team Rocket admins from Gold and Silver. At least they have names now, because in the original version of the games they were just admin and they didn't have names. And they, hatch a very standard Team Rocket plot of, villainous group of the Pokemon game plot of, we're going to take control of this legendary Pokemon, in this case Arceus, and we're going to take over the world. And in this case, you also don't really get an idea as to the why or how this will work. The leader of the four admins that are concocting this plan is a cartoonishly incompetent villain who literally at one point dances up to Arceus saying, "I'm going to capture him," and then Arceus literally kicks him down the stairs away, and that's the last thing that he does. And there's only really one bit of important character development, okay, two, that I can think of when it comes to the actual protagonists, the Pokedex holders. There's not a lot of time that it runs. It's like 19 chapters, so not a lot of time to really do anything, but it's not a very interesting story, and you can probably, if you are like, oh, I want to, familiarize myself with Pokemon, honestly, if there's one part of it you can skip, it is probably this one.
Like, I imagine if, like, your favorite part was Gold and Silver and Crystal, and those are your favorite Pokedex holders, like, sure, you get to see them all together again. They show off some new Pokemon. They all get moments to look kind of cool. But, like, in terms of, like, an actual narrative and, like, a plot that you're following, it's Arceus is going to be taken over by Team Rocket. And then we've got to stop Arceus. And then we did it. Credits. Yeah. And then they go home. It's like, it's an interesting thing, but it almost feels like it was a checklist that someone had to knock off. Like, someone was like, because I don't know how, when they write these, if they were like, all right, so these new games came out, we obviously have to do the manga for them. We don't have a ton of plot, but we didn't deal with Arceus from Gen 4 because it had 69 legendaries in it or some bullshit like that. So we could deal with Arceus here. What else did the Gold and Silver remakes do? And somebody was like, there was a Pokathlon, and it was like, fucking 4 chapters of that, I guess. Yeah. Just put it in there. I don't...
So I had to look into this stuff because I didn't really play HeartGold and SoulSilver very much, so I wasn't familiar with the stuff that they added to them that was unique to those games. And apparently, this manga includes 2 of the elements that were added for that, one of which is an event where you can go to the Sinjo ruins, which are somehow both Sinnoh and Johto, because it was Gen 4, but it was the Gen 2 remake that happened in Gen 4. And you access it if you have an Arceus, and you go to the ruins of Alph from the original Johto games. And then, in order for there to be more to it than that, they took the Pokathlon things, which are just individual minigame challenges that you can also do in the games, because they, would add little things in each of the games to kind of just like give you a new little thing to do. And they gave them important lore that connects them to the Legend of Arceus because it was the only thing they had to work with.
Yeah, it's rough times.
So, the only thing that I really have to comment on is, so Silver is kind of important to things because, Team Rocket's involved. Silver, of course, is Giovanni's son in this continuity. And so they do have a little bit about his connection there, but there's not really a payoff to it. Giovanni shows up, and that's just kind of it. They leave things open ended in the relationship between Silver and Giovanni, so it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of payoff there. Crystal is there, but she has honestly like one cool moment where the freaking creator of the universe, Arceus, shows up, and her first instinct is, "I've got to stop it. I'll capture it." And she tries to just kick a Pokeball at it. It doesn't work, but it's like that's just her first instinct, and so it's like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But really, the only person who's got like a prominent narrative in this little saga is Gold. And his thing is about how, even though he's, part of this group of Pokedex holders who are all very accomplished and stuff, it's continuing the idea that a lot of people don't really think that he belongs amongst them. They established at the beginning that he was the last choice for the three of them in the region to help out on this mission that involves Lance trying to contact Oak about something. And so Oak tries to get Silver and then Crystal, and they're not available. So then he's like, all right, Gold, come here, I guess, So, and then that pays off at the end because Gold realizes that he's been kind of protective of his Togepi, who is very similar to him in personality. And when he realizes that, he's like, yeah, I'm the last one that people rely on too. So I'm sorry that I didn't trust you. I believe in you. And then Togepi freaking double evolves into Togekiss. And that's what makes Arceus go, yay, I trust humanity now.
Yeah. A good move, by the way, because Togechick, is that the middle evolution?
Or Togetic or Togetic or whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That is one of the most butt ugly Pokemon in existence. So it was a great move to just skip straight past it right into a better evolution.
Full agreement, yes. So, and that's it.
Yeah, it really, like, I feel bad because it was a recommendation. But this is like sort of the context we're working with here. So we have our Discord server, which of course everyone should go to, and we have a specific channel that's just set up for the current recommendation. So we have a lot of people who read the series along with us or have already read it, and they add their thoughts. When it came to this series, there was maybe a half-hour long discussion about this series. Then it moved to just talking about Pokemon type matchups in the game. Then it moved to talking about a Bionicle manga, and then it moved to the idea of me starting up a Jackie Chan podcast, and that's it. There was very little content about this series, even in our Discord. So there's just not that much to actually say, unfortunately. HeartGold and SoulSilver were pretty decent games. There's that going for them. Arceus is a butt ugly Pokemon, but what are you gonna do? They had to come up with designs for 17 legendary Pokemon that gen. They can't all be winners. I mean, it'd be cool if a couple of them were, but can't win every fight.
This is also kind of has the same trappings of, we got canceled after 20 chapters, so I needed to wrap up the epic quest that was going to last for the entirety of the series, because the plates that are in the 4th gen games specifically to change Arceus's type and stuff. There are 16 of these, which you just, acquire through various points in the game. And that if there were a full saga that were associated with it, people would be gathering them and stuff like that. But instead they just hand wave and say, yeah, so Silver's Weavile just left some markings on trees that made all the other Sneasels and Weavile in the entire region all hunt for them together and then deliver them to him.
There is a lot of time spent gathering these things while simultaneously no time spent on. There's so many moments of Silver being 16. What significance is there of 16? Fist plate, ground, or a dust plate. What could these possibly halfway through be the Pokemon type? It feels like he spends a while getting there. And then he gets there, and he's like, now I have all 16.
And now here they are.
It's all right.
The one other note, two other quick notes I have about the season, which are really just kind of just a dunk on a couple of characters. One of the Team Rocket admins is a master of disguise, And he's the first one who reveals himself to any of the protagonists, and he says to Silver, "That's right, I'm a master of disguise. The next time you see one of your loved ones, it could secretly be me." And I'm like, I mean, all right. Is that really threatening? Okay.
It cuts to like I mean I think his mom's dead, but I would like the idea of like Silver hugging his mom, and then the Team Rocket guy reveals his mask, and he's like, "It was me all along. This warm, embracing hug you're receiving is mine. These are my feelings of maternal affection. I got you."
Go to bed, dear.
I also do enjoy, because it's like a plot point that when they try to capture Arceus, it brings forward Dialga, Palkia, and Gargantia, whatever the dimension was. No, Cresselia is the moon one. It's like Gargantia. Giratina. And then they revealed that Giovanni, Lance, and Price has been freed from like the time paradox super hell he was in to be in there, and they're gonna square off. So like Dialga fights off against Lance, or not Lance, Price, because he's like, "I've already experienced the feelings of time. This won't have an effect on me." And then Lance goes against Palkia, and he's like, "Oh, we already established that my Dragonite can like aim and angle its hyper beam, so you don't have to, like, I could use that to get around your space warping." And then like Giovanni is against the other one. He's like, "I guess I'm stuck with this one. I don't have like an ace up my. I'm gonna send out this beef ass Ursaring, I guess."
Isn't an Ursaring normal type? And Giratina's part ghost. Yep, doesn't matter. Because Ursarings are awesome. The other note that I have is, so some of the Gen 2 gym leaders feature in this story. Not all of them, but like Whitney is there with Gold, and she's just kind of like bouncing off of him because she has the most personality out of the gym leaders from that era, basically. Claire runs into Silver briefly when they're like trying to find Lance, and Morty, they use his like, you know, his sixth sense kind of stuff to try and locate a few things. And then Falkner, Bugsy, and Chuck just run into Silver while he's looking for Morty, and they're like, "A lot of people have been bugging Morty lately, asking him to find stuff, and you seem like a suspicious person, so we're gonna have to take you out." And Silver's like, "All right, okay," and he beats down Falkner and Bugsy immediately.
As he should. Those gym leaders sucked. I do also like it.
Yeah, that was my thought, which was just like, yeah, they suck, they deserve it.
I do also just like it because it's a moment of like, I don't have time to explain this. I want to beat the shit out of him and then explain it. And I was like, yeah, all right, justify it as you need to.
So actually, I think Jasmine's the only one who doesn't show up because Price comes back.
They explain she's off doing... Oh, she's doing Pokemon contests, I think, or something like that, I feel like.
Did she make a cameo in one of their series? Maybe that was it. But, yeah. But, yeah, it's unfortunate that... I guess in retrospect, this kind of exposes that the Johto games had a lot of characters that were just not as memorable as the counterparts that you would have encountered in Gen 1. And yeah, so it kind of sucks. I think we've already talked about it for longer than we really could have gotten out of it. So I think we should just...
Yeah, we did it. We nailed a good 12 minutes, I think, of content out of that, which, to be honest, is a little bit of a lot. We got it all.
All right. Well,
what a grand return to the Pokemon JoJo's adventures.
All right, so we don't have My Hero Academia this week, so you take it.
Yeah, let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 70, Spring. So we open with Union, who is on board their special Union plane. This is a new thing. And basically,
is this one of the prizes that they won?
That'd be sweet. They're like, the reward for this, a sweet jet.
Is it a private jet? No, but you have to. But you get a discount when upgrading to first class. Wait, we have to pay for tickets? Yes!
And fuel! Fuel's very expensive. It only flies on by setting fire to the remains of dodo birds. Those have been extinct for years. Yeah. Find it, though.
Too bad that you didn't, master all those missions that would have gotten rid of the extinction.
Yeah, UMA extinction's still out there. So basically, they talk about how they're trying to find Fuko, but they don't have any way to contact her right now. And they're like, we're trying to ping her, but we can't. And apparently that tele guy is a communications technology expert, so we can't really expect them to contact us. So we're not really sure what we're going to do. And it kind of just ends with Andy being like, all right, let's do it. Let's get a hostage of our own, basically. And they're just like, all right, what's going to be Union's move? We cut over to Union, where we open with Billy, and he's talking about Spring, the last of the seasonal UMAs that's still out there. He says Spring is currently overlooking Tokyo. It has already reached phase 2 and is making cherry blossoms all over Tokyo, which doesn't sound so bad. That sounds pretty nice. That sounds great.
Also, he's drinking heavily.
Yeah, also, he's a bit of a lush. And Fuko just says a moment like, oh, maybe he's a bit more mild-mannered than the other ones. He says, yes, if it's exposing a moment of weakness, that works for us. Launch the nuke. And Creed is like, sure thing. And they launch a nuke. And they're like, what? Because, Fuko's like, what about all the people in Tokyo? And Creed's like, that's just 10 million people. If that's the sacrifice we have to make to be an UMA, then that's chump change. And we see Creed's ability undecrease. So he launches a nuke. I was hoping for uncredible, but, undecrease, I think probably works a little bit better, considering what he does. So, big emergency. A nuke has been launched. They ask for a visual. And we cut over to Spring, who is sitting atop a Tokyo Tower, I think is what it's called, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. And it's just watching the nuke coming, and it says, how uncouth. Trying to interrupt my spring cherry blossom viewing, are you? I've got some time till the booze kicks in. So before it does, and he pulls out some dice. And I'm like, what the fuck is he going to do? And he says, how about we play a game? A cannon? If I win, I take that nuke. And he rolls some dice, guesses even, it comes out even, and jackpot. Luck shines upon him. The nuke harmlessly lands in Tokyo. And we get our full page sort of introduction to Spring as he pulls out some fans and says, oh yeah, nothing beats Spring. Which is a pretty cool image. Yes, he's great. So they're like, holy shit, that's that guy. Like we see Union reacting to it first. And like, that's that thing's ability. They're like, no, I think he's just using dice-shaped artifacts. So this is kind of interesting. But if I were him, I'd have realized it too. Fuko is pivotal for the Spring fight. So they have their quote-unquote hostage. There's nothing else that Union could do or Under can do at this moment but kind of go there. Because as Creed explains, well, I can't shoot any more nukes unless I use them up. My undecrease won't activate. So because the nuke was taken and not used up, he can't just fire another one. So we do find out a little bit of how his power works. And then Billy just has a little thought of Juez saying, that girl is our hope. And he says, Fuko, you will kill Spring. And there's a whole lot of people fighting back against it, but Fuko is immediately just like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm tired of feeling pathetic. Everyone else has been steadily growing, but I can't do anything unless Andy is around. I've been piggybacking off of Andy, and yet I can't give him a proper death. Saving the world was part of the reason I came here, but the truth is I wanted to serve a purpose by myself. I want to stand by Andy's side as a negator all on my own. And if the enemy gets stronger with luck, then I'll get stronger with unluck. I will go to defeat Spring. So, looks like that's where we're headed.
Yeah, it's a great introduction to Spring, I think. He's got a cool design, but I really like his personality. Just like, ho hum, they're firing a nuke at me. Oh well,
It's
stab
also
on the haters.
it is also just an energy too. You're like, a lot of the other ones were kind of evil. So far, he's just chilling out in Tokyo, launching off cherry blossoms and drinking. This dude's fucking living a life.
Yeah. What's going to happen? Is it going to turn out that he's just, going to make people die from him having too much fun? Is that it?
Something like that, or I don't know, the cherry blossoms explode, or I don't know. There's gonna be something, but at the moment, I'm like, this guy rocks. Let's have spring all year round.
Yeah. But I do also like the setup of like, okay, his artifact is a luck-based thing, so of course you want the person who gives bad luck to take care of that. Yeah. So there you go. All right. So, we haven't had a lot of World Trigger recently.
World Trigger!
It hasn't been updating every single month. And when it has updated, we've only gotten one chapter each time. We got 2 this month.
Nick, what kind of...
got accomplished in the one chapter one.
I was going to say, what kind of big-time content did we get this month in World Trigger?
A lot of talking.
What? In my World Trigger? Impossible.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I took notes for this. It's chapters 209 and 210 of the Away Mission Test, parts 7 and 8. So we start off the first of these chapters with the delivery of the first special assignment to the away team squads. It is a question. Why do you think your squads were shuffled for the purposes of this test? Think over the possible reason or reasons as a team, compile your opinions, and submit your responses under 400 words. They have, apparently it's only like half an hour for them to actually submit the questions. Or it might be more than that, but I can't remember exactly what
I think it is 30, because someone says they'll talk.
It says 10:40 at the time that the assignment arrives. So, on that very first panel, this way it's 10:40. So they actually have like over 4 hours to answer it. But
I know someone at some point says they're like, we'll spend 20 minutes talking about it and then 10 minutes writing it or something like that.
So the majority of the first chapter is cutting to each of the different squads and seeing bits of the conversations that they have about this question. First, we cut to Mizukami's squad, and they say, well, maybe it's not important that we actually come up with the actual correct answer for this. They just are doing this to gather information on it, so maybe the conversation that we have is just as important as the answer that we actually submit. We then go to Kodera's squad, and Kodera is immediately like, hey, so we don't waste a lot of time on this. We'll spend 20 minutes discussing possibilities. We'll spend 10 minutes writing up the report, and then we'll submit. And then we're going to get back to doing other stuff, basically. In Kakizaki's squad, Kageura says, this is because, we're going to all be tossed into a huge group together. So this is to get us used to that. Isn't that obvious? Kitazoe's squad bring up the possibility that maybe this is to test how they'll deal with stressful situations because they'll be dealing with people that they're not familiar with interacting with. And most of the members of the squad are like, I don't really get that, though. I mean, I feel like we're getting along great, It's cool, I'm not stressed at all. And Kikuchihara is there. He's just like, I hate all of these people so much. We're freaking out about it still. But we also see that he has come to the same conclusion, or is coming to the same conclusion that Sua did about how the squads were forced into winding up this way, basically. Okay, so Hanzaki in Wakamura's squad questions some stuff, and he brings up the possibility. They bring up the possibility that maybe this is so that if one of the captains of one of the squads that isn't going on the mission as a whole goes on the mission, then one of the other members can get used to operating without them. They'll take over as the captain without them, or something like that. They also bring up the possibility that. And so they're like, okay, maybe like if Katora goes, if Ikoma goes, if Kageura goes, then their squads will be left with someone who now has leadership experience. So Wakamura brings up when this happens, though, that Katori doesn't want to go on the away mission. And Hughes just says, Yeah, but she might not have a choice.
Yeah.
Which is a good point. Kuruma Squad, Osano, the operator, suggests the squads got shuffled because it's fresh and fun. And everyone's just kind of like, what are you talking about? But she says, like when you meet someone, you get to know them and stuff, and maybe this wouldn't have happened if we weren't forced to meet people, and, we can see if we click or not that way. And it might just be to find synergy among people who wouldn't be on a team otherwise. And Murakami Squad is kind of talking about the same thing, but they also go on the tangent of, well, maybe this is so that we will expose individual operatives' weaknesses because their squads tend to make up and cover up for those weaknesses. And Ninamiya, with Ninamiya's squad, pushes this even further and says it might come down to not just abilities, but personality. Because he brings up Kageura is the captain of his squad, but he kind of tends to operate with a lot of freedom because Kitazoe and his operator Nirei are kind of taking care of all the other stuff, and that allows him to do that stuff. Mikumo, I wonder if he can actually produce the same results that he had when he beat me. Not better. But I wonder if he could replicate that to success if he doesn't have allies who respect him. And Yuzuru kind of meaningfully looks at Ninamiya while thinking to himself, I'd ask the same about you, because you don't have my respect. Do we know anything about this, or is this new?
No, we did, because he's thinking of, what's her name? The one girl who left, I believe.
Okay.
Whatever her name was, I'm blanking on it right now.
Because
I think I feel like she trained Emma or something like that.
Right. Okay.
Hado Harder. I wanted to call her like Hito Hero or something like that, and I was like, no, that's silly.
And then that brings us back to Suwa Squad with Osamu and company. Katori brings up the idea of, hey, why were certain people selected to be captains when they're not captains of their own squads? Why were certain captains not allowed to be captains of these away team squads? What's going on with that? Suwa's like, what, did you want to be a provisional captain? She's like, no. I just want to know why the hell they did this. So Suwa brings up the possibility that certain non-captain members are being chosen to be tested as captain candidates. Maybe they're going to be the next generation of squad captains. Also, maybe certain captains are going to be given a chance to become management material instead. And Katori's like, yeah, but why Rokuro? Which goes to show how much he respects him. So, yeah. And then the power goes out. Yay! Osamu recharges the power of the room, and then his laptop is dead. How could this have happened? Stay tuned for the next chapter to find out.
Thank God we got 2 chapters. How infuriating would it be at the end of the chapter? It's just like, oh, my laptop won't work. Credits. See you next week.
I wonder why Osamu's computer is not working. Could it be that Osamu's a little Tryon baby who's got no Tryon? Yes, that is exactly it. Katori gets mad at him over this, of course. Ryan reserves left by trying to have him charge the room, and of course, he's completely out. So Katori berates him a little bit more, and they're like, what are we going to do? We're going to fall behind on answering questions if you can't use your laptop. So Osamu thinks for a little bit, and then he goes over to Oki's laptop, and he's like, hey, can you, flip through some of the questions, and I'll take pictures of them on my cell phone, and then I'll answer them on pen and paper, and then first thing in the morning when I've got my Tryon back, then I'll get on my laptop and copy everything over so that I can submit the questions more quickly than if I were just working exclusively off my laptop. It's a nice little innovative solution to that. And it also inspires the rest of the squad, like, oh, if we do this, then we can also work more, in our downtime and stuff. So I'll take some pictures too. So that works out well enough. Let's talk about the stuff people were talking about. So then we come to the control room, and literally we get almost an entire chapter's worth of people analyzing the things that the away squads were talking about that we did not experience firsthand just now. And so they're analyzing people's insight into this question. And so they say these people brought up this possibility, these people brought up this possibility, but the important one that they actually hone in on is some of the stuff that was come up with by OG and Somei. Somei being Katori Squad's operator. And they draw in particular attention to Somei's analysis of the situation, and we flash back to that when she's talking with the rest of Kitazoe's squad about it. And she says, I think that they're shuffling us to simulate the advancement to B rank. The way that they shuffled stuff resembles the finalized teams when many of us moved from C rank to B rank. So each of us have gained a lot of experience since our teams were first formed back then. So I think that the goal is to reset us to the start or simulate that by putting us with new squads and then seeing how we'll adapt to that based on the experience that we have gained. It's equated to playing a new game plus in a video game, resetting you back to level 1, but with some extra perks. And so they, of course, ask, well, why would they do that? And Somei says, to aggregate and put to use the experience that we've gained. They've placed experienced agents together on new squads and are forcing us to produce results during the limited time frame of the test, forcing us to mobilize the necessary knowledge and our experience and transform that raw ability into something more tangible. What's more, the A-rank judges with their own experience can learn how to properly evaluate B-rank agents' abilities. And all of that data can be used when forming and cultivating new B-rank squads going forward. I speculate that the aim of all of this concerns the entire organization of Border. So her squad mates say, I think that you're onto something there, potentially. Somei, however, says, I'm really just speculating. I don't really have a lot of evidence to back this up. She calls it baseless speculation. Everyone's like, yeah, clearly she wasn't baselessly speculating. She's been thinking about this probably for a while. And they say that she came up with the most specific answer that most closely matched the actual reasons they're doing this. Only a little bit more than OG did, apparently. But then they say she nailed a good 70% of the reason we are doing this.
It's maybe the most infuriating part of the chapter, where it's like, yes, that was about 70% of the we won't tell you what the other, like, you're just like, I don't know why this is so quantifiable. It's like, people don't act this way.
They bring up the possibility that maybe they should consider her for a management position when they hadn't before, and they're like, oh, she's too young. Maybe she could bring some fresh perspective, but, drawing a lot of attention to, hey, she's got some really good insights here, so that's nice. Kido says that Kitora offered some similar thoughts, but because he's on lame-ass Kodera's squad, and he was like, oh, let's only spend 20 minutes talking about this, she didn't really go into as much detail as the others did. And so they're like, because of that, they were able to, talk more because of Kitazoe's more laid-back approach to everything. But on the other hand, Kodera's squad is being really efficient with actually getting the assignments done. So there is a benefit to both ends of that spectrum. And then they bring up, I think this is the last point they bring up, but then they bring up Hughes and Yuma both said, yeah, I think that they're shuffling the squads that we're used to working with different people in case some of us die on the mission, they have to shuffle us in the act. And they're like, yeah, I guess the neighbor would come up with that stuff. And I do also like to note that, a bunch of people did like that. But Konami was like, fuck you guys. Why are you being so negative about this? That was her answer to that. And then they also bring up Osamu's running out of Tryon and his solution for that and people's reactions to that. And then they say, it's nice that we got a peek at their process, but the assignment is being judged based only on what was submitted. So, shall we score them using the criteria we set out? And then we flash ahead to 7 o'clock in the evening. Suwa Squad is, getting ready to start turning in and stuff. They want to go break for dinner and everything. Then Suwa on his captain laptop thing gets a notification about the rankings for the away team squads. Wakamura's squad, with his approach to doing everything efficiently, is scored the highest. And Suwa's squad, with his no Tryon baby who can't submit some of his answers is ranked the lowest. So
Wakamura is 11th or 10th rather.
Mizukami.
Yeah, sorry.
I misread it. Yeah. So there you go. That's the 2 chapters for this week. I'm really glad that I took notes ahead of time because, geez, that would have taken me forever to go through otherwise.
It is a sequence of chapters that only World Trigger can put out. And it is seemingly now becoming a ritual for me that when a new chapter World Trigger comes out, I have to kind of tweet about the absurdity of it. And at first it was kind of ironic and charming. I'm slowly reaching the point where I'm like, is this just what World Trigger is? Like, are there going to be space battles again? Or is it always going to be talking about hypothetical space battles and space bureaucracy? Because I'm slowly reaching that point where I'm like, oh my god, have we just crossed over from when the original trilogy went to the new to the prequels, and there's just
The
Senate
Trade Federation will not end the
and we had to get fucking Newt Gunray or whatever. And I think it was Conan O'Brien who was told once, they're like, oh yeah, it was named after Newt Gingrich. She's like, these movies suck. Oh yeah, that'll really hook the kids in. We got a sweet Newt Gingrich reference in our characters.
Oh man. Yeah, so I thought that there were some nice tidbits here and there throughout these 2 chapters. I do like some of the focus that some of these supporting characters are getting for the unique perspectives that they have on certain things. I do like that it seems like we're building up to some of them going somewhere, but we are getting there at a snail's pace right now. I don't know what to say that it should be instead, because I don't know if there's a way to do precisely this kind of approach to this manga in a different way that wouldn't completely miss the point.
Yeah.
So
it's still like, I want to make it clear, I'm not complaining about any of this per se. It is just something I will note. Like it's the music thing. I enjoy it. I cannot comprehend the people who are like, best chapter of the week. I'm like, really? The best?
All right, let's change gears entirely now.
Yeah. Let's talk about pornography, Nick.
Wait, what?
No, we're going to talk about Eden Zero.
Yeah, well, I guess that is kind of close. Yes. So let's talk about Eden Zero.
So I will note, we've switched up again, Nick. I'm done. My relationship with Comixology is done. It's buried. It's in the past. I moved over to the new hotness, Nick. Azuki. That's right. All the cool kids are talking about Azuki, the new manga service thing that you can get. And it's got Eden Zero and Four Nights of the Apocalypse, a whole bunch of crazy stuff. And I moved over to it, and we're going to see. This is the trial run. We're going to see if the chapter halfway through just deletes pages from it like I would constantly get on Comixology. So if you're looking for a new place to check out Eden Zero and a whole bunch of other series, you can actually, I think, for the most part, read like the whole run of these series, basically.
My dad's the queen of all VTubers.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weirdos in our Discord, I'm sure, who are all crazy about that. They all love those VTuber things. I don't want to say that dismissively, but I am very dismissive about VTubers, which is why I muted their channel. I don't know what they talk about in there, but I don't want to know. Anyway, we're going to talk about Eden Zero, chapter 150, Weiss versus Nisei. And we get a color page where I first thought it was like, oh, so it's like a giantess Rebecca thing. And I'm like, no, it's just weird perspective. I think she's supposed to be normal side.
Weird perspective, yeah.
We open with Rebecca being like, oh no, my legs are robotic now. And Shiki hugs her and is just like, it's okay, I'm here for you. And there was almost kind of like a weird, sad tension in there. I was like, the scene doesn't really have emotional drama to it in the way I think Hiro is intending it. And it almost comes off unnerving for Shiki to be genuinely comforting. Like, I'm just like, shouldn't he be like jumping into the air, punching somebody, or like I know this is older, more mature Shiki, but I was like, I don't know how to take this.
I get the impression, especially because of the way that Rebecca talks about Shiki later, that this is incredibly standard hero main pairing shipping. And it could be suggesting that in this timeline, Shiki and Rebecca's relationship was at the point where this would have been more normal for him to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Master Noah's also there saying, look, I didn't want to scare you. This is the world you're living in. And he starts trying to talk, but he starts breaking up as he's talking. So he'll be like, it's important for you to learn the reality of the world. And then the time before you return, you've lost legs, been in a coma for years. No one can really, like, she can't really hear what they're saying, except Shiki kind of eventually gets something out saying, if anybody can change this, it's you. You can make sure you never reach this future. And then Rebecca wakes up, and she's in a bunny costume, Nick. Why is she in a bunny costume, you might wonder?
So, when they were making a big deal about Lyra taking Rebecca's clothes off, I was like, oh, what's going to happen? Is she going to be in some crazy fetishy outfit? And I'm like, this is incredibly standard by Hero Series standard. So this is like nothing. And I was like, wait a minute, though. It's completely off brand for Rebecca. She's not a kitty cat now. She's a bunny. She's going to be terrified.
It was also confusing because I was like, they made such a big point before about like, oh, her beautiful legs or whatever. And I was like, oh, she's going to wake up and like she's about to be in surgery to get her legs taken off or something like that. It's like, oh, maybe they might have just been horny for legs. We don't really know. Rebecca's back at it though. She has a brief thought thinking about how Shiki was, quote, kind of hot as a grown-up. And she's like, well, I have to change this future. But seriously, though, why am I wearing these clothes? And then a bunch of lights come on, and it's Lyra. She's there.
Between the trauma of realizing that I was a double amputee, I thought, grown-up Shiki's a snack.
Girl. And it's just like, all right. Weird to blend these two moments together, but less than a page apart. But Lyra's there. She has a bunch of TVs and a bunch of lights, and they're basically in like an underwater aquarium. Like, yeah, we're going to start this week's deep sea party. And hailing from the Sakura Cosmos, we have the B-Cuber Rebecca. This is streamed totally unedited on the OwNet. And Lyra explains, I didn't get to explain to you because you were passed out, but I'm having you as a guest on my show. And Rebecca's like, who are you, though? And she says, I'm Lyra. I work for the Emperor. The enemy. And she's like, yep, we're going to have our fight.
Yeah, why did you think?
We're going to have our fight here. And then we get a shot of Rebecca's thighs really being emphasized. And she's like, but why am I dressed like this? And Lyra says, you got to look good for the camera. We are broadcasting this for the world. And then she says, this is the game we'll be playing. Lost card. And she has a face. I don't know what this face is meant to get across. Is it cocky? Is it lacking in confidence? I don't know. But she is making a face. And
it's kind of halfway between a cocky smirk and a grimace.
Yeah.
Which is a combination between.
Yeah. We cut over, though, because now we have to get back to the giant robot fight that's happening between Weiss and Desai. And basically, it's a bunch of space stuff. Weiss does have a moment where he's like, why don't you seem to care about destroying your own planet? And that's not brought up again. I guess the impression is Desai is an asshole. But who knows? Maybe Psycho was also a grandpa to him, and we'll get that little tidbit post-defeat as well. He summons a whole bunch of energy orbs, and then he complains about gamers today in a scene that's like, how old is Desai supposed to be? Like, is he 70 and just looks really young because he just sits there bitching about, he's like a shoot 'em up game, you know? All these kids today, when they think of their shooters, they're thinking about their Call of Duties and their Battlefield 1940. In my day, it was about bullet hell games, and they don't understand. I'm like, they still make bullet hell games. What are you talking about?
Back when Toho was popular. Hold on.
Apropos of nothing, he starts this giant monologue about bitching about gamers. And Weiss just has a moment of saying, like, okay, this guy's got like this ether coat on his armor. I need to fire stronger rounds, but if I try to do anything, the Mark II won't be able to take it. What do I do? And then he says, duh! The answer is obvious, as though he's talking to someone else. But this is all in his head, so he's an insane person. And then he just touches the robot and breaks it. Which really,
that was easy!
Really makes this whole conflict seem silly. And then Nisei's like, oh, but your mask broke. That means I can hypnotize you. And Wise is like, no, I like reorganized the whole town. So there's a bunch of electrical jammers, basically. And he's like, also, I changed the ground to be full of guns. And he's like, how did you do this? He's like, overdrive. That's how the chapter ends.
I remember when I talked about how Homura getting overdrive seemed really anticlimactic. I'm going to take that back now.
I didn't think this chapter was so funny until I started recapping it. And I was like, he really does just fly up to and grab the robot. And he's like, boom, I win.
Why did I do this in minute 1 of this battle?
I guess I didn't really need to come to any emotional catharsis unless getting bitched at by some old shitty grognard gamer was the emotional catharsis I needed to unlock overdrive, to dig deep and overcome.
Yeah. So don't gatekeep your fandoms from younger fans. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end zero for this week. That's the
But hey,
okay.
Props to Azuki. I didn't run into any issues, so go check it out. azuki.co.
All right. Let's get into our newer series. We're going to start things off with the Hunters Guild, Red Hood, Chapter 2, Dodo and Naroya. So, last chapter left off on Grim inviting Velo? Braid Kid. So
Velo, I think. Velo, something like that.
To become a hunter along with her and take down werewolves and stuff and protect the world. However, our hero is like, nah, I can't. I've got to stay in this hamlet and protect people. And Grimm's like, why? Why are you saying this? And she literally grabs him and shakes him and makes his head wobble back and forth. It's like, come on, if you destroy all the werewolves in the world, then that'll be like protecting this place too. Come on, join the guild. But he's like, look, I've got like too much to do, and it's not like werewolves will ever be fully eliminated because werewolves were normal people once. So as long as humans exist, there's always gonna be more werewolves. And Grimm says, I have an answer for this, but I can't tell you if you're not in the guild. It's a very like human direct answer about it. So he's like, look, if I do join the guild, I'll be sent all around the world to different places. And during the time that I do that, if there is this secret plan to eliminate werewolves forever, my hamlet's not going to be safe. We barely had the money to pay you, and we can't afford to pay a hunter to stick around here. So I'm going to stay here. I will take up the mayor's mantle and be the new guardian of this hamlet. That's what I want to do. Also, why do you change into an adult?
Thank God he asked it, though, right?
Yeah. So Grimm's like, okay, so you've got two issues. You are concerned for the safety of the hamlet, and you don't trust me. So if I earn your trust And if I can guarantee the hamlet's safety, then you won't have anything keeping you here, right? And Phil's like, what are you gonna do? So she says, okay, I know what I'm gonna do now. You've got the mayor's axe. Yeah, you should keep it. It's precious. We cut away from them to behind them in the woods where 2 more werewolves are. And they are reacting to the fact that the first werewolf that they killed, Granny Bialy, is dead. And we are introduced to this squat, big-mouthed, more monstrous werewolf named Naraoya and a tall, skinny, long-snouted one named Dodo. And they're like, oh, man, I can't believe she's dead. But, she was old. So, what this means, she doesn't have territory over this hamlet anymore, so we can take it, and we can feed on the humans here. This is our opportunity to take over. So, Dodo is like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab some man meat and, maybe kill a couple of hunters along the way. You, Naroya, you're dumb, but you're strong. And in combination with my smarts, we're an invincible pair. So we're going to do this together. And they start freaking out, and they're so happy with themselves for being man-eating monstrosities. I do really like the artwork on these 2 characters. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of personality so far in the werewolves.
So Naroya basically starts raising a huge ruckus out in the field. He starts rampaging among some sheep. So a man in a lookout in a tower raises an alarm. He's banging a bell and saying, "There's a werewolf! Everyone into the meeting house to safety!" So everyone takes shelter inside of this meeting house in the village, and clustered amongst them is Dodo rather, in a human guise. And so he's like, this is perfect. Everyone's distracted by Naroya outside, raising all this ruckus, and they think that he's the danger, that they are safe from him in here, but I'm amongst them too, and this is how I operate. This is the difference between strong werewolves and smart werewolves. And so he's just getting ready to take advantage of this. We cut outside to where Naroya is now getting really annoyed by the lookout who is clanging the bell. And he starts to try and go after him and eat him. And the lookout's like, oh, God, he's going to eat me, but I'm the lookout. This is my job. I can't just run away. I've got to keep raising the alarm so people know that they're still in danger. Fortunately, Grim is there with him in the tower now. And she says, can I borrow this bell? And the lookout looks at her and says, no. So she grabs the bell. And she jumps off the tower and smashes Naroya in the head with it.
Now, how did you feel about this scene? Because, well, go ahead.
I don't really like the look of the picture. It's because you get a sense of the impact, but it's kind of hard to tell what actually happens to Naroya when she does it. But I do really like the lookout's reaction to her being there and be like, no, you can't take it.
I thought it was legitimately awesome the first time it happened, where she just was like, can I borrow the bell? He's like, no. He just takes it and just fucking cracks this big wolf on the head with a bell. I was like, cool. And then someone else brought up, they're like, well, didn't they make a point last week that she has 66 different tools? Why are we fucking introducing improvised bells? I'm like, oh, because it's cool. Stop it. You have a good point, but she hit him with a big bell.
So... Yeah, I think that the thought might have occurred to me too, but I can't argue with your point of because it's cool, because that is such a great action movie one-liner. Is like, can I borrow this? No. It's a cool scene. So we then cut to Dodo, and he's like, what the hell's another hunter doing in here? Why is he looking around for someone?
Have we made a do joke yet?
No.
All right. Well, we just did.
All right.
Done and done. I'll see you guys later. I'm headed off.
All right. Bye, Chris.
Oh, man. If I had the ability, I'd start playing the SNL music right there.
So Dodo realizes, wait a minute, this kid's looking for someone. Does he know that I'm in here? There's no way he knows that I'm in here. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. The other hunter's not here. I can handle him, and he doesn't know who I am, so he can't pick me out from anyone. Where'd he go? And Velo's come up behind him, and he's pointing his gun right at the back of Dodo's head, and he says, I know who you are. And we get a flashback there to where Grimm was walking with Velos at the start of the chapter, and she said, "Hey, there's two werewolves watching us from the woods. Don't look at them. Pretend that you haven't noticed them. We've just finished a job. Make them think that we are all relaxed and our guards down. And then we've got to get back to the hamlet really quickly, and I'll explain on the way." She says, werewolves are territorial creatures. They stake out villages, and the village is their territory. Other werewolves do not violate other werewolves' territory, but when a werewolf dies, other werewolves are always waiting in the wings, ready to swoop in and take over that territory. You should be able to pick them out. And then we cut to the present, where Velo just explains, this whole hamlet has been raising me since my parents were killed by a werewolf. Everyone here is my family. And I don't recognize you. I don't recognize your face or your clothes. I've never seen you before in your life. And when someone I don't know pretends to be family, there's no way I won't notice. And that's basically it. He says, we don't need any werewolves around here, and we're going to hunt them and protect this hamlet, as we get a bit of a split panel between Velo pointing the gun and cocking it, and Grimm seemingly having finished Naroya on the outside. So how'd you feel about this chapter, Chris?
A little mixed. As I said, there's like a couple decent moments, but like I feel like the big thing at the end where he's like, I recognize you immediately because you're not one of the people in this village. I'm like, how big is this fucking village? Because shouldn't everyone know everyone? You're a fucking village. Like, what else do you... These are the people, the only people you interact with every single day. Shouldn't everybody be like, hey, who's fucking weirdo over there who's like giggling and, chortling to himself over there?
Jesus. I mean, I would guess that there's probably like a few hundred people out here, if that. But yeah, so maybe Dodo is just not as smart as he thinks he is. Who knows?
Maybe.
So.
But otherwise, like I don't know. I'm still kind of waiting for something in this series to hook me. Like I kind of brought up the werewolves before because they're the things in this series right now that kind of have the most personality to me. There was a little bit when Grimm took the bell and just clanged the werewolf on the head, but it's just not enough right now. This series feels like it's just missing something for me.
I think that this chapter was probably starting to head in the right direction when we got the interaction between Velo and Grimm at the beginning. I like the way that she very, calmly lays things out logically, but also we see like how comically blunt she is about certain things. Like the thing with the bell guy, the way that Velo's like, how'd you turn into an adult? And she just like completely bulldozes past it and doesn't think about it and stuff. And yeah, the way that she like shook him before and was like, you're not making any sense. I'm trying to get you to save the world with me, and then people will be safe. So I think that if we get more stuff like that from them more consistently, then this will probably be a more gripping series overall. I think that there's definitely some promising elements of it. We've got, some cool looking action scenes, cool looking monsters to have as monsters of the week and stuff. So I think that things are starting to really come together, but they're not quite there just yet. Yeah. And we'll see how things go in the next chapter. So.
Yep. And there's no ITLC this week. Aww.
No, what happened? What happened to it? I don't remember. Wow. They had just gotten a new member of the I division, and I thought that they were going to have lots of new cases to solve.
We'd only just gotten through the prologue.
Yeah, again. For like the third time or something. Oh, okay. Magu-chan got a destruction, chapter 50. Oh, I might have forgotten to read this chapter.
Oh no. Well, it's not a big deal. It only introduces a new god and sets up a new plot line.
Okay, I guess we're gonna read this one blind. All right, here we go, everybody. So we open up with, oh no, I've forgotten the guy's name.
Muskar.
I'm
gonna shout important info towards you.
Muskar, he's on the beach.
Drink water. It's important info.
No supposed to awaken. Um, and he's so there is a big black swirly thing as he cracks open one of the containment gem things. And then we cut to the morning. Ruru's waking up. Her mom's there, and she kind of brushes Ruru's hair. And then her dad comes into the room and says, "Oh, what are you doing up? Elementary school is closed today because it's Sunday." And Ruru seems to act like, "Wait a minute, something's going wrong." And then she's like, "Oh, okay, thanks, Daddy." And we fool out. We pan out, and it turns out that Ruru is dreaming. Magu is trying to awaken her, and because it is morning, but she's still just not awake yet, and so he tries to get her to eat breakfast, which means that he stuffs a whole tin of natto into her mouth.
Yes, he does.
So that doesn't work. So he goes around to investigate and realizes that there is a mist swirling all down the streets. Muskar greets him and says, "I shall not let your destructive power fall into the hands of lowly humans." Maga realizes that he is responsible for what's happening and demands to know what's been done. And Ruru says she's having a dream thanks to this one's powers. Wake up, Nosukoshu. Unleash your power we discussed. And the flower has a little head that's really sleepy, and he's got a silly crown on his head. And they're like, "I'm so sleepy. Why'd you break my shield, Musgar?" And Muscar's like, "Wake up. Wake up. No, no. All right. Here, take this energy drink brand energy drink." And,
energy drink. Caffeine. Arginine?
Arginine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a chemical. So Muskar force feeds Nosukoshu the energy drink to wake him up, and the flower completely blossoms around his form. Nagu's like, "Oh, it's the god of dreams, Nosukoshu. This is the power of illusion that brings about sleepiness and enchantment." And Muskar is like, "Yeah, this will get the humans out of the way." The wide-range force field controlling this area's silence of fate is spreading illusions to all that are within it, lulling humans to sleep. Every one of them is having a dream or something they've longed for. Lowly humans are slaves to happiness. Ruru Miyagi will not be waking up. This, of course, pisses off Magu for, Muskar trying to harm his disciple. So Muskar has Nosukoshu hide in the mists, and then beckons to Magu to come and fight him in his true form. There's a cool battle pose thing, and then an explosion in the middle of the air. But then we cut away from there. Oh, that's concerning. So Ren is sleeping, and Naputaku is trying to wake him up, and Ren's like, "I've caught you, Ruru." Which, that wording concerns me.
It's like the fun way, like, we were playing tag and I caught you.
I hope so. So Naputaku.
I'd really hope so.
So Naputaku says, "Wow, you're really gross when you sleep talk," and then he goes to try and wake up Rin, who is dreaming of sleeping on the beach.
I have to assume when Nosukoshu is eventually just part of the cast, she has to be connected with Rin because they just feel like the perfect combo.
So Naputaku's like, "You leave me no choice. I'll just have to manage the shop today. Yay, Naputaku!"
I know there are bigger plot lines going on right now, but I am so I'm like 100% like, I hope Naputaku can open the store. There won't be customers because I think everyone in town's sleeping. But imagine the poor stress that little boy's going through right now.
He's trying to get his hermit crabs to help out and get all the seats ready. Yay. Uneris is flying around. She realizes what's going on. She can't really find her way anywhere. And then she says, "I could produce a gas mask to neutralize the illusionary incense, but if I use Providence now, I will exhaust my physical body. Plus, it won't be very fashionable." Okay. So she's like, "I need to go find Izuma." Izuma is dreaming about fighting Magu, so he's no good right now. So then she's like, okay, don't do anything rash, Magu-chan. Muskar is just itching for a fight. Magu-chan is fighting Muskar. Okay. He sends out some Morphlaxis to fight for him, but Muskar is like, I thought it would come to this. Uneris used the same tactic on me previously. A battle between us superior beings who are immortal boils down to whittling away at physical strength. But in a war of attrition, I cannot lose. Predicting your moves is my expertise as a prophet. And all of the Morphlactics are just attacking a Mirage. Muskar attacks from behind. He uses Adjustment of Fate to call down a Lightning Strike, which hits Magu and all of his Morphlactics. The Morphlactics dissolve, and he's all burned up and singed and starts to fall to the ground. But BS saves him before he hits the ground. And he's a big boy now. Apparently BS detected something was wrong because his family wouldn't wake up. And so Muskar is upset about this, and Magu's like, he's the one behind the trouble, but I'm at a disadvantage. I need offerings to become my flesh and blood. Away, BS! I will restore my strength and free my disciple from fate.
Aww.
Hey, it's a battle chapter. Cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty significant chapter. I like a lot of the touches. I like this new plot. And I like the BS reading at the end. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I am legitimately not kidding though when I'm like, I don't fucking care if they ever find Noshu Kushu. I really need to know that fucking Pornaputaku is able to open up the restaurant on time. Again, knowing full well no customers will be there.
It's the principle of the thing, okay?
He doesn't know that. He's just panicking, all right?
Oh, boy. All right, we have a new series running in Shonen Jump starting this week. Neru...
About real ninjas, Nick.
Don't you start. Neru Way of the Martial Artist by Minya Hiraga. This is a series that ran as a digital limited series sometime last year, I think. And now it's being adapted into a full run in the physical magazine. So we are starting off with Skill 1, Return of the Tengu. Okay, how do I go about this? It's a martial arts series. We see a little bit of our main character training with his old master guy who has no eyes. He looks very terrifying because there's so much of his face that you do see, but he has no eyes. So he's training with Neru, and he's really super skilled and stuff like that. And Neru's like, when I met all people who weren't like Grandpa, I was mystified. Grandpa never showed any sort of decline, and I wonder why. He wasn't a freak of nature or a hermit. He was just a martial artist. Ooh. Then we see Neru several years later in junior high. He crumbles up a future path form into a tiny ball and eats it. You shouldn't do that. That's bad for you. So he's got a buddy.
Maybe that paper was printed on like pressed chicken or something like that, and he just got a lot of protein that way. Like it was cooked chicken, but it was really thin, and then like you printed on it with like, I don't know what ink you could make. I guess like food coloring.
Yeah.
Maybe like some cornstarch or something like that. Like it was probably healthy paper he ate. That's why.
I hope so. So,
and not that it's gonna uncurl and he just shits at a piece of paper later. Like, oh man, what a mistake that was.
Neru is grabbed by his friend Miki, who is like, "Hey, come over here and use your martial arts to help this girl because some scumbags are hassling her." And this is a chance for us to meet an older woman because she's in high school. Nice. Also, they're threatening her with a bladed object. That's very bad. So, Neru...
I really, at this moment, because he shows up and, like, stops them. And yes. I really expected it to be... Because you don't really see what's going on from afar. And right. They said, look, they're totally harassing her. I was absolutely expecting him to have misread the situation.
Right.
And it just butted in. But that is not what happens. Nope. Apparently... And you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess she's just the like, no, she's fucking martial artist master. I don't really know why the scene's here.
No, I don't know. She was humoring them, I guess.
I guess.
So Neru goes to stop these guys, but a book flies out of his backpack because he's a slob who doesn't zip his backpack up when he goes anywhere. Um, and he grabs the blade object from the guy,
Well, he's
and
also
it's
walking around outside without fucking shoes. I mean, this guy, he's tracking just so much stuff with him everywhere.
so yeah. We thought that this Neru kid, good shape, martial artist. You think that he would have lived to be at the pinnacle of health, but he was dead at 16. What happened? Well, he was eating paper and running around with his with no shoes on and grabbing bladed objects from strangers and stuff. So eventually he just like fell head over heels into a pit of blades, and he was too busy reading about martial arts to do anything about it, and he just died. So there you go. Anyway, he's fascinated by this bow shuriken that this guy has, which is a good point of like, why does he have a ninja weapon? I don't know. So then it turns out the girl's already gone. She has made away, and she has gotten Neru's book. So Neru then chases off the guys. Miki tries to talk to the high school girl, and we get a good look at her, and she's got really odd features. Just her eyes look weird to me. She's got Neru's book. Miki's going to ride away, and she's like, "Why don't you tell me more about that Neru guy?" And she gets on the back of his bike with him, and Miki is like, "Do you drink coffee? I'd love to hear more about him." And Miki sees the universe, I think, is what happens when she says this. And then he's like, "I know a nice cafe. I'm gonna talk to a high school girl," which makes my face look weird. So, then Neru can't find his book later, so he strips down to his underwear because he's weird like that. Can't find his book anywhere. Miki tells the girl about Neru and is like, "Yeah, he lives really far away, out in the middle of nowhere, basically. He doesn't have a TV. He doesn't have the internet or manga. The only entertainment he has at home is this. He calls it his picture book. His ancestor or something wrote it. And it's got these old school Japanese drawings of like, Tengu figures and stuff. But she says, oh, it's a martial arts book. His grandfather was and Miki's like, yeah, his grandfather was a martial artist. And like, they've been training together, so he's been training his whole life and stuff. Neru still can't find the book no matter where he looks for it. Eventually, the girl goes out to Neru's home in the middle of nowhere, but he's still not back. So she kind of looks around some more. She goes into a shack and finds these Oni masks and sees a bunch of scribbles as well that look vaguely like humanoid stick figure shapes in various different poses. And they're all across the wall, and they're all across every surface that she can find, across rocks and plaques and stuff. And then we cut over to Neru, and he's drawing out an image from the picture book, and he's like, there was this picture book that Grandpa used to show me, but he didn't know how to read, so we would just act out the picture book. And so he starts reciting the story, where he looks at this little drawing he's made, and he's like, once upon a time, there was a young boy called Rihei who was super strong. And he starts throwing the bow shuriken at a tree, and he throws it really hard, and it goes through and makes a hole in it. And so Neru's whole life is this picture book and martial arts. Also, there's a Buddha carving there. Yes. So Neru says to the Buddha carving, what did Grandpa talk to you about? Because he would come out here and he would just sit there for hours. You guys had like conversations, right? What was with that? And the Buddha statue says, who are you calling creepy? But it turns out it's not the Buddha statue. It's a masked figure who is clearly the high school girl that Neru rescued earlier. But Neru doesn't pay attention to people, so he doesn't recognize her because she's wearing a mask that perfectly hides her identity, even though she's wearing the same uniform and is the same height and has the same hair. So one
of those masks that covers just the eyes, and then the rest of her outfit is way more memorable. So you're it was like, oh, she could have been anybody. She was wearing like a sweatpants and a t-shirt or something. Like, no, she was wearing that school uniform of the person I saved from Muggers earlier today, and she had the same very long hair and like thigh-high stockings and everything like that. And Who could she be? Anybody?
She introduced herself as Akebi Haiba, and Neru's like, Haiba? Oh, do you know who I am? No. Okay then. So she says, I didn't know there was another martial artist in this town, and she has some swords with her. And she says, let me tell you an old legend. Once upon a time, there was a young boy called Rihei who was incredibly strong. And oh my god, it's the same story that Neru was reciting before. And so they start reciting the story together. But they don't just recite the story together, they start acting out the images in it. And they're fighting just like they fought in the story. And oh, swords and ooh, and shuriken, and oh my gosh, Hypa's so fast that Neru's like, oh my gosh, she's so fast. But also she recognizes that Neru is moving exactly how the drawings on the inscriptions on the wall were like, so she realizes those scribbles were his lessons. They're how he learned to move. But he's still got lots to learn, and she smashes his sword out of his hands and knocks him to the ground, and then pins him down with the sword embedded in the ground just next to his head. And the story comes to a conclusion with, oh, and Rihei killed the bandit, basically. But then she lets him up, and she says, sorry, I got swept up in the nostalgia. Neru's like, oh my gosh, what is this feeling? I've got to take notes. And he starts carving more diagrams immediately into a rock. And Haiba's like, I get it. This is how you train in martial arts. And Neru's like, that's right. Martial arts are awesome. Incredibly awesome. And he says, I want to be even better. And Haiba's like, do you want to be better than me? And then she says, Neruma Isami, I'll put an end to your boredom. And Neru narrates, the one I'm most grateful for. There are moments in life when we're struck to the core, but the one moment I'm most grateful for is the day that she found me. And then we cut to a couple of days later, and basically Neru is going to go and join a martial arts dojo place. And wouldn't you know it, there's been one not too far this whole time. You just have to go up these really high steps, and up on the mountainside there is this dojo where young martial artists train, and it's Neru's journey's beginning. Woo!
I would like it if it becomes a legitimate plot point that this fucking dork just like never asked anybody about martial artists, and that's why he's like, oh man, I wasted all the years of my life doing this. There are so many people I could have been fighting this whole time. What did you think about this series, Nick? Because we discovered recently that you really like martial arts series.
I thought this was really boring. I saw a little bit of the chat about on our Discord about this series, and most people were like, yeah, there's not really anything that sets it apart, but I guess that, you know, sometimes you just want to do a martial arts series, and that's just kind of it. And yeah, I totally get that. What gets me about this is not that the premise is something that doesn't seem exceptional in comparison to other martial arts series. It is just that, God, the main character's boring.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. And I don't really want to follow him on any journey that he goes on, because he does not leave any impression on me whatsoever.
Some people have noted the series has kind of an old school vibe to it, and I definitely can see that in some of the writing and drawing and different aspects. In particular, there's that scene where he kicks the bully, and it's kind of tough to tell where his leg's going, but he gets like a 3-point contact and a single shot, and I was like, I feel like that's almost exactly like a scene in like JoJo or something like that. And then I just couldn't stop thinking about how much more interesting Joseph is as a character than this guy. I was like, I don't know, man. Just give him something, like I don't know, like a quirk or something at this point. As it is now, is like, I don't watch TV and I like martial arts, and I'm like, those aren't real. Those are interests. Those aren't personality traits.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. I don't have anything else to say about this, and I'm disappointed.
Well, Nick, let's get that disappointment over by talking about 9 Balls Dragon Prey. Nothing to feel bad about there. I didn't get it right all the way till the end, Nick.
Chapter 20, Our Baseball. The score is tied between Kokuryuzan and one-man team Benikoma. So it's Kokuryuzan's turn up to bat in the top of the ninth, and they're like, all right, we've got a chance here. But Hikibe is like, no, I'm determined not to give up any freaking runs or anything. He strikes out the first two batters, and that brings up Tsurugi, and immediately he just walks him. Like, nope, I am not taking any chances, and it's okay because the next guy up at the plate is just some nobody. But it's not just some nobody. It's Shuhei, vice captain on his old team, guys. Mr. Reliable.
Yep.
Super reliable. And he does something that is incredibly very baseball, which is he just stays in the count until the guy walks him by fouling off pitches that are in the strike zone and watching for balls so that he can get an unintentional walk. So that advances Tsurugi to second base. So there are 2 outs with men on first and second, and Azakita is up to bat next. And so Hibuse is just like, all right, he's just a weak hitter. I don't have to worry about him. Yeah, he's smart, but he's just an average kid in terms of batting. So, but Azu is looking at him from the plate, and he thinks to himself, you know, you're really incredible because, you know, all by yourself, you hit home runs, you strike out batters, you don't depend on your team, you hold the team up, and you've calculated how to embody a player with the skills to single-handedly achieve victory. But you also know that you have to rest when you can if you hope to get through this whole tournament. And those pitches you've been striking us out with, your famous fastballs, they eat away your arm stamina. And I noticed something when I was reviewing film on you. Toward the end of the game, when you think the batter isn't a threat, you have a tendency to throw curveballs because they aren't as much of a strain on your arm. And sure enough, Hibose throws a curveball and Azakita is ready for it, and he makes really firm contact with it. It's a really cool full-page spread that we get of him doing it. Yep. Just of him in the follow-through as he's making contact. And it bounces through the infield, gets through the gap. Tsurugi rounds third and is safe at home plate. So Kokuryuzan takes a 1-run lead. And then some schmuck gets out. I don't know. So bottom of the ninth. It's Ryudo still on the mound. And so they're like, oh no. Hibuse is our leadoff hitter. And our first up to bat is the 7th in the rotation. So if they get 3 straight outs, he's not even going to have a chance to hit for us. And so he thinks immediately like, it's over. I wasn't enough to do it. I've let us down. And the catcher on the team comes and sits down next to him. And he's like, hey, do you remember what you told me when you joined the team? And he said, you just have to be able to catch my pitches and I'll take us to Koshien. And the catcher says, I think we were all relying on you too much. You know, you on your awesome pitching, on your powerful words. And, you know, if we'd all worked as hard as you, Mizumaki, then maybe, maybe we could have gone to the Christmas Bowl. But unfortunately, we're not all tall boys like you. So, but he's like, you know, I think this game would have been different if we'd all, you know, contributed to the team as much as you did. And I really appreciate, you know, how incredible you are. And I want this country to acknowledge how awesome you are, too. I want us to go to Koshien together. And he is the 9th in the order. There are 2 outs. He's their last gasp to try and get on base. Just get on base. So Ibuse can get up to the plate and they can have a chance to take the lead. And Rito sees the guy and how determined he is. He's like, this guy's going to be kind of tough to get out. But it's okay. We've got this. We can't let them win. And he gets 2 strikes. And he's like, come on, I just need to hit the ball. I just need to hit the ball so that Hibuse can take over and bring us to victory. And as Ryudo's getting ready to throw his 3rd pitch, Hibuse calls out to the catcher and is like, hey, I'm counting on you. And the catcher's like, yeah, I got this. And Ryudo throws the ball and he swings and he gets full contact on it. And oh my God, it's good. It's great. But Ryudo is smirking. And he's like, and he thinks to himself, baseball's great. The pitcher doesn't have to do it all alone. He's got 8 teammates backing him up. And Tsubaki!
And we saw 7 of them in this game. There were 2 others. I'm sure they were also helpful.
Tsubaki finally gets his moment in this game. He makes a difficult catch at the shortstop position and gets the final out that they need to secure a victory. And Kokuryusan wins, and that's it. They advance through the tournament. Hibuse is disappointed, but we don't really see a whole lot of that. We see him, talking with his teammates briefly. All of Kokuryusan gathers around Tsubaki and is like, "Good job, yeah, our hero, yeah." And Tsubaki's like, "Yeah, I'm the star of the universe." Like, yes, yeah, good for you. And we get one last joke from Glass's shortstop, who's like, "Ha, what a loudmouth!" And they're like, "Hey, you're looking at the umpire. I don't know how you could possibly make that mistake."
I also like it more because they got crushed by this team. So it's why are we even acting arrogant to begin with?
Oh, so they do a bow between the teams. Kokuryusan advances to the quarterfinals of the tournament. Azukita looks up into the stands and he sees Shiro looking down on them from up in the stands. He's wearing an all-white suit like a prick.
It's just a hideous thing. Like, if that tie isn't at least a different color, or at least the shirt, that is fucking hideous.
Ugh. So Azu thinks to himself as he looks up at Shiro, "I learned something when I was little. Strong guys are cool. In the past, the things I wanted, I could never grasp. But now, I can say one thing with confidence." And as he's thinking this, everyone on Kokuryusan is kind of gathering around. They're noticing, like, hey, look, it's that asshole. Hey, Tsurugi, tell him off. And Tsurugi's like, "No, that's not my character. I'm the stoic one who just hits good. No, I'm not going to do that." So everyone gathers around, including the manager, Karine. And Azukita looks up at Shiro, and he thinks, if back then I could see us now, I'd want to be on the 9 Dragons team. And as a team, they call up to Shiro, "We'll see you at the championship." And that's the end of 9 Dragons Ball Parade.
Nick, I can't wait for the next chapter where we start getting closer to that match.
God, sometimes disappointing series just do this thing where they're like, "Hey, you feel bad we're getting canceled? You feel bad? Could have been really good if we had given us more time." Well, yes, I know.
Wait, Nick, we're going to get a chapter next week, right?
It seems like it should, yes. I actually, from what I've heard, there is going to be like a bonus story thing that comes out later down the line, which we might not get because we don't always get these bonus things when they come out on the English Shonen Jump service. But yeah, so 9 Dragons Ball Parade ended. We were thinking it would end probably around here, I don't know, 2 months ago. So
End it. No, hold on a second. I'm going to cash in my veto at the bank and bring it back. That's how it works, right?
I mean,
Shonen Jump, come and get it. It's right here. It says I can do anything. I'm going to turn this off. It's too loud.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't say that, but okay.
Oh, damn. All right. Well, I guess we're just going to save this so I can bring Neru into the recap.
God damn it. You fucking dare. So what do we think about 9 Dragons Ball Parade? I liked it. It was kind of slow at points, but I'm sure that if it had been given the time to get past those slow moments, then it would have proven itself worth the wait. And I feel like this chapter shows flashes of that. And I feel like this sequence would have been much more satisfying if we had had more time dedicated to seeing this kind of stuff play out, having more big moments interspersed across a wider number of chapters and everything. Some series just develop in a way where it's like you got to give them time in order to have setup to then get a good payoff. And unfortunately, this one didn't, endear itself enough to people to let them give it that amount of rope. So, yes. Oh well.
It is unfortunate. Sometimes things don't catch on. Sometimes good things just don't get that attention. But we could still, I try not to be super negative. I try to be like, at least we got the stuff that we did get. And it was pretty good. So I can always look forward to remembering that part.
Yes. Okay. let's move on from there to Dr. Stone.
Time to get stoned, Nick.
Z equals 203. Missile Heart. We get the first results from the popularity poll for the series, at least the Japanese results. Apparently, Gen is super popular over in Japan, so good for him. I mean, he is one of the more important characters, but the fact that he's
Number one,
more popular even than Senku is pretty crazy.
At a time where he has not had a incredibly significant scene either in quite some time. I guess he had the bit with Zeno in his lab, and maybe that just feels like ages ago, but that feels like ages ago to me. So I guess maybe that's what people are going off of.
It might also have to do with the fact that now the anime's come out, more of an audience has been introduced to him. But,
True.
I don't know. Okay, so we everyone's in Spain, in Barcelona, and I think we're through with all of the Spanish stereotypes now, because as everyone's just mining for fluorite and everything, and they're like, okay, now that we got fluorite, we can have a really powerful telescope, cool, and also we can start working on rockets and everything. Kaseki's like, oh, once we know where Wyman is, this baby will fly us up there. The rocket he's built is about 10 feet tall, so they need to make a bigger one. But hey, it's a miniature rocket. They can use it, in conjunction with a prototype of Dr. Zeno's test engine, and we can use it to do a test launch. Cool. So there's that. And they're like, okay, so the next place we got to go is to establish Math City in India. So Chrome brings up, okay, so how are we going to get there? And they explain we would have to go all the way around the African Cape, the Cape of Good Hope, to get there normally. And Ryusui brings up the problem that with the new Perseus, we're going through fuel really fast because there's a giant rocket on it. So if we are going to do that, we can't make it past that cape all the way to India. So they bring up another possibility, which is to use the Suez Canal. But they're like, okay, this might have been completely blocked up, though, because it has been used for thousands of years, and maybe the geography has changed. Maybe, stuff has shifted, and, land has risen in parts of it, and we won't be able to traverse that canal. So, might not be a good idea. But they're like, well, we've got Dr. Chelsea and her awesome geography ability to look through a telescope. So maybe she can help us out with this. So they get a hot air balloon going. They float Chelsea up into the air, and she looks through the new telescope that they've got, and she starts scanning the run of the Suez Canal, and she's like, nope, something's been blocked. But she says, oh, hold on. It's a dead end that we would hit, but the sea route is still there. It's just that there is a dam made up of dead trees and junk in the way at a certain point. So they realize, okay, it's just a bunch of debris and stuff that's all been deposited there because it's all been washing down the river, not being maintained for nearly 4,000 years, and that's all eventually blocked stuff up. Or maybe some beavers were like, fuck all of this, we're going to block this place. I don't know.
I think it's meant to be debris because I don't know if there are beavers in that location.
I know, but I just saw a dam and immediately I was like, giant beavers!
I assumed it was that as well at first, and I was like, it's kind of fucked up to just launch a missile at this thing, as we'll get to in a second, if there's something potentially living inside of it. But I guess if the implication is just debris, then yeah, whatever.
So they say, so if we got that out of the way, that'd be good. But we'll need to actually secure the route before we actually start traveling it. Otherwise, we just, if we couldn't clear stuff, we just have to turn around. So Senku's like, that means we need to clear it from here. Let's fire a missile. And all of the people born in the Stone Age are like, I don't understand what's happening as they're launching the missile. And they're using an Xbox controller to guide this missile because, of course, they are. And so they launched this frickin' missile at this naturally occurring dam, and they guide it directly into the wood.
These
blows up.
Scientists of light, as Senku called himself.
Yeah, it's a very good thing that we do, blowing this shit up.
It's very good we've developed ballistic missiles. It's
yes.
a good thing we've done.
We're blasting into the future. What's the problem? All right, so I guess they're going to go to India, and we're going to be introduced to a whole new set of stereotypes.
Oh man, like I'm starting to get like actively anxious now when new chapters of Doctor Stone come out because I'm like, oh, please don't be really insensitive. Please don't. Please don't be really racist. Anyway, let's talk about a series that has none of that going on right now. Instead, talks about capybaras. Chapter 69, nice of Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Wahlberg Boggin, and the Magic of Time. So we have this showdown continuing between Innocent Zero and Wahlberg. They've both kind of revealed some of their tricks up their sleeves, but it's not going exactly easy. Wahlberg basically removed the space that he was in to kind of teleport behind Innocent Zero and do an attack, but Innocent Zero rewinds time and then kind of erases, like, ages part of Wahlberg's body as his left side gets very wrinkled and decrepit. I forget the term they use for it. It's the same thing Baragon used in Bleach. I don't know. Anyway, he does that, and Innocent Zero says, next time it'll be your legs, Wahlberg. And Wahlberg's just like, he's exploiting the opening to my attacks, not to mention the frequency with which he's casting those powerful time spells. How powerful have you grown, you monster? It seems I must use all my magic to cut this space. And he uses these long swaths of space cutting. And he says, not enough. To keep it from abusing the time lag, I must cut this space further. And we just see these giants, circles of space being erased over and over again. And he does all that. And Innocent Zero's behind him. He's like, time through rounds. It's going to take longer than that to defeat me. And he ages Wahlberg even more, kind of erasing the entire left side of his body. He just says, it's useless, Wahlberg. The difference between us is too great. I prioritize myself and my ambitions. There's no sacrifice I won't make. But you're always watching those around you and never put yourself first. Those without ego are weak, Wahlberg. You doomed yourself by letting others in. It's too bad. And Wahlberg thinks, it's
time for a flashback.
Yeah, time for my sad before I die.
This reminds me of something.
He says, is one's life really only for oneself? And he talks about how when he was born, he had a very frail body, and his grades weren't outstanding. He was kind of cowardly, so he never went to school. There just wasn't any place for him. And then he had a lack of confidence that made him very nervous. He didn't want to be rejected by others, so to prevent himself from that, he just decided to reject them first. He was like, I will live over here, and I will just always pessimistically kind of view the world as this bland, boring thing. Then
over everyone's faces, so
yeah.
I never recognize who they are.
Then Adam Jobs shows up and he says, did you know capybaras can run 50 kilometers per hour? Come to school.
Are you sure about that?
Nick, why would he lie? He's a magician. And this is how their relationship started. Basically, every day, Adam Jobs would come in, burst in to see him without his permission, and bring some strange animal trivia with him. Do you know dolphins drown if they sleep? Come to school.
That's not true.
Do you know
pigs can't look up
pigs.
at the sky?
My eyes are really bad. I just like everyone says, come to school. And he just says he came, no matter how many times I rejected him, no matter how bad the weather was or how bad I was, he tried to improve himself with me. I don't know, the one shot of him punching you in the back of the head is a little less endearing. Yeah. But he says time and time again. And then one day I asked him, why? Why do you go so far from me? And he says, well, I guess I just can't leave you alone. And hearing that, and then he says, did you know rabbits eat their own poop each morning? Come to school. And he smiles, and Adam Jobs says, did you smile? Was it the poop? And I was like, yes, that Mashle humor that I've always been waiting for. So we cut back to the present, and Wahlberg says, live for yourself if that's what you truly desire. but I'm only alive due to the goodwill of others, which is why I can never ignore those weaker than myself. And he says that he is going to cast this spell, even though it will cost him his life. Space is thirds. Uranus inclination.
I just can't get into Yu-Gi-Oh again. There's too many of these ridiculous boss monsters, so
it was bad enough when they introduced Sekadits, but now that there's third spells as well, it's a lot. You have to cast these ones upside down from the top of your deck, but that's actually the bottom of your deck. It's fucking weird.
So it's a pretty crazy looking thing. I do like the interplay between Wahlberg and his master. It's a very humanizing thing that, he's essentially just as weirdly demented as all the characters in Mashle are, but he's still in that meant a lot to Wahlberg. It's a weird way of, getting across the sentimentality of it while also just being very weirdly humorous the way that Mashle normally is. So
yeah, I mean, I enjoy the chapter. It's what I've been saying for a while. We need to give context for the third Hokage before he dies. It's just inevitable at this point, but I do still enjoy the execution. I also enjoy that we get a little bit of the Mashle humor in there. It's just such a fun gimmick that this guy comes up with stupid animal facts, says them, and every time's like, come to school. He goes out in the middle of a fucking hurricane just so he could be like, ostriches bury their head in the sand, come to school. He's like, no. I don't think that's true or whatever. I don't think that's exactly how it happens.
Did you know the squids are just octopi? The guy that had plastic surgery? Come to school.
Oh, he just lied. He's like, cats can fly. Come to school.
Eventually, they're really lazy.
Pigs oink. Come to school.
Did you know that Winnie the Pooh would actually eat all the other people in the 100-acre wood if he were a real bear? Come to school.
It's dark now. Winnie the Pooh wouldn't be friends of any of them. He would eat them all. Come to school.
What about Tigger? Oh, he'd eat them too.
If Clifford was really that large, he would be a menace to everyone around him and destroy so much property it wouldn't be worth owning him. In fact, humanitarily, the only thing we should do ethically would be to bring down a monster of that size. Come to school. Wishbone had the ability to travel back in time, but he didn't free the slaves. What's up with that? Come to school. He didn't stop 9/11. Bad dog. Come to school. I don't like these lessons anymore.
Oh my god. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to the Elusive Samurai, Chapter 23, Homage, 1334. Get a cute little cover page of the elusive warriors as school kids going to school, except for Akaba, who's in a freaking sewer poking his head out of the manhole. So it's the end of the battle. Tokiyuki has defeated. Oh gosh, I should actually remember this guy's name because it turns out it may be kind of important. Hang on, let me cut ahead a little bit.
Sorry, I just wanted to get that in there too.
Tokiyuki has defeated Shokan. It looks like he's dead, and Tokiyuki, of course, is grateful to Fubuki. And Kojiro and Ayako are like, oh, wow, you just, scratched him on the arm and just ran around. Yay for the cowardly sword! And Tokiyuki's like, don't call it that. It's a cool sword technique. I can fight now! So, Fubuki's like, all right, things going great. If we, spread the word that we've defeated their leader, the bandits will lose morale, they'll flee, so we've basically won now. But oh no! Reinforcements have arrived! And it's Sanamune leading the charge, and he immediately spots Tokiyuki and fires an arrow at him, as the first glance at him that he gets. Kojiro and Ayako and Shizuku immediately start berating him because this is a very serious manga that never gets into weirdly timed humor, like in the middle of a bloody samurai battle. And they're like, hey, what are you doing invading people's territory? He's like, we're at war, come on! And Shizuku's like, I like to watch a snake swallow your eyeballs.
All right, Robin.
Okay, so Fubuki realizes, oh man, this is bad. Reinforcements have arrived from Sadamune, and all of our allies are busy handling the bandits. We can't redirect them. I guess we're just going to have to regroup our forces and just flee away from them. But then they spot a line of torches from a force arriving from the south, and of course, hooray! It's reinforcements from Suwa Shrine that are all coming in, and so Sunmoe is me like, God damn it, call back Shokan's men. We aren't prepared to actually confront the entire main force of Suwa. So everyone starts fleeing. As they start to leave, Sadamune spots the blood on the inside of the door where Tokiyuki fought with Shokan. He's like, what the hell happened there? Yorishige is getting orders and issuing orders and stuff like that. We are introduced very, very briefly to his son, who is like clearly an adult and a commander in the force, but that's all we learn about him. He goes away now. So that kind of gives us an idea like, Yorishige is old enough to have like an adult kid. Okay, so he rides up to immediately in front of Tokiyuki, dismounts, and the first thing he does is he just grabs Tokiyuki in a hug. He's relieved that he's not hurt. And Tokiyuki's like, yeah, you're hurting me. Don't squeeze me so tight. Yeah. So then, Akaba says, you should be thankful to me because I rode like crazy to get here in time. And I almost died when I had a nosebleed when I passed a sexy girl on the way here.
Well, I do like that the response is then that would kill you, which is the sensible response as opposed to One Piece where it was a plot point.
Yeah, it was a medical emergency. So
what is it? Where does this come from? I don't know if it's because of Ace that I've never experienced sexual arousal to such a degree that my nose spontaneously explodes with blood, but where does this entire myth or whatever come from?
I don't really know. I've noticed it primarily in like anime and manga and stuff. So
Nick, have you ever seen someone so sexually attractive to you that you spontaneously geysered blood out of your nose?
I mean, the only times I've ever bled from my nose were when I was an idiot and I scratched it when I was picking it. So, in the visual language of Japanese anime and manga, sudden violent nosebleed indicates that the bleeding person is sexually aroused.
But but where did it, like, I know it's an anime manga thing, but like, what was the start? Like, fucking Astro Boy just saw a panty, like a skirt get flipped up and he was like, or whatever. And like, eventually it's like, fucking the dude was just like, I didn't mean, I spilled ink on the page. My child's not a pervert, I swear.
According to this article, the trope comes from an old wives' tale that when a teenager filled to the brim with hormones sees something arousing, their blood pressure rises to the point that it causes a nosebleed. Yasuji Tanioka's humorous comics from the 60s are thought to be the trope's earliest inclusion in manga.
Well, take it from somebody whose blood pressure was so bad they had a stroke. I don't think that's what happens.
Okay, so anyway, Elusive Samurai. So they that happens. And then Tokiyuki introduces Yorishige to Fubuki, and Yorishige's like, I should reward him. Tokiyuki's like, I want him to be my retainer. And Fubuki is immediately like, hey, I can't really be your friend. I can't really be your retainer. I can be your friend, but that's it. The only one that I can possibly have as my lord is someone who's going to like try and like be a ruler. So I could serve Yorishige maybe, but then Yorishige like grabs him and is like, this guy's the real ruler, so that none of his forces will overhear any of this. And Tokiyuki's like, yeah, I'm the last survivor of the Hojo clan, and yeah, I want to rule the land. And Fubuki takes this news incredibly well by spewing his food everywhere because he was munching on food, because that's one of his character traits.
Yeah.
But Fubuki's like, oh man, I knew that he was hiding something, but this is pretty crazy. And if he really is from the Hojo line, all those characteristics, his kind heart, his fleet-footedness, could be formidable weapons. This is intense. And it's so intense that fire's in the background behind him. Yes. So Fubuki's like, I eat a lot, so I hope that won't be a problem. And he bows before Tokiyuki, who accepts him as his latest retainer. So, hooray!
I guess he is getting another retainer.
Yep. We cut away from there to
I do want to note the very cute thing in it where the priestess comes in and is like, you can eat rice, not millet there. And he's like, holy shit, sounds like paradise. Like, he's really excited about that.
And Kojiro's like, I don't know if this guy is smart or stupid.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own strengths. With Sadamune's forces, Shokan ain't dead. He survived all the blood loss after he passed out, and now he's being carted around by forces on a makeshift hammock thing. And he says to Sadamune, why did you come? And Sadamune says, well, I heard that you were wasting time and pillaging a village, so I knew that Yorishige would come and intervene. And why the hell did you do that? Why did you just go off killing villagers? Land without anyone to work it provides no tax revenue. And but he does admit that, hey, that was a good place to attack. Your eye for strategy is great. I will grant you a small domain where you may sharpen your fangs in preparation for the coming clash with Suwa. But I forbid further banditry. Instead, serve me as a proper warrior. And Shokan is still thinking about the image of the Buddha that he saw when he was fighting Tokiyuki, and he just passively says, as you wish. And so the band of rogues gradually disappeared into the ranks of the military. This period marked the final flourishing of the wild bandit samurai. We cut back to Tokiyuki. He and a number of people from Yorishige's group all say a prayer for all of the villagers that were killed. And Tokiyuki also is left to think about the fact that some of the warriors that were helping them in the conflict died because he wanted to defend the village. And he just thinks to himself, I've got to keep that in mind. People died because of my decision. It's a very short little thing, but it's like, oh, that's really nice that he, has that quality to him.
Yeah, that's a pretty important one.
Yorishige calls him over, and he says, I want to express my gratitude to you and also to apologize. As Fubuki mentioned, the village was a weak point no one noticed, so I'll establish a garrison there. The shrine will shelter the orphans for a time. They look up to you and Fubuki, so they won't object to this arrangement. And I exposed you to danger, so I should be honest with you about my condition. Sometimes they can't see the future, and he says, sometimes it's indistinct, but sometimes it disappears entirely. You can't tell anyone this, because divine power depends upon belief, and the faithful rely upon that power. And additionally, I would like your assistance in reclaiming my ability. I want you to learn about the source of my strength. The world still contains a mysterious power the likes of which neither might nor intellect can measure. And then he turns, as the chapter ends, to look out of the panel at the reader and say, but don't expect a plot twist like I can throw fireballs or anything like that. And that's where the chapter ends.
Exactly where it should. What a note.
So that's the end of this little arc that we were on in the Elusive Samurai, and it looks like we've got a little setup for the next quest that Tokiyuki and company will need to set out on. So,
yeah, it was a fun little chapter and a fun little plot thing, and I do like that one dude's still kind of alive, because they're like, hey, we can actually use you.
Yep. He was an established enough character that, maybe keep him around, bring him back eventually. So.
Yeah. Let's move on, Nick, to Black Clover, page 298, Transient Life. So, Megicula's back. She's in a fully realized form, or just about fully realized form at the moment. And Noelle opens a chapter. I'll be like, how are you here? Only one of the gates to the underworld is open. She explains that the gates are insurance. My true goal is to manifest through the curse-warding magic, malevolent femcantation. So basically, I need to do some stuff. And she explains, all right, so it started with your mom. Cursing her to death allowed me to partially manifest in Vanika's body. Then there's Vanika. made a contract with me, a supreme devil, and because she's near death, I'm able to emerge like this, though it's incomplete. And then there's little Pachika, who I also have cursed, and when Vanica and little Pachika die, then I completely manifest in this world. And she shows off some of her devil water magic, the Hydra of Neru. So that's also a new Yu-Gi-Oh card that just came out. You have to check it out in the set. It's also that's one that actually starts outside of your deck, but not in your fusion summons or XYZ deck. It actually starts hidden somewhere in the room, and you have to find it before you can cast it.
You've got to like do an escape room thing.
So they're just like, oh my god. And she's like, yeah, I only tinkered with the magic a little bit and made her a devil. I thought I'd give her some good magic or good memories before she dies. So Noelle's like, how dare you? I'll defeat you right here. And she sends out her attack, and the curse warding magic just decays the attack. And she's like, in my current state, the power and speed of this spell's effect are beyond comparison with what they were before. And that's when Charlotte uses some of her rose. It says, as if I'd let anything else go your way. And Magicula compliments her, saying, you were the first to ever oppose my curse. You were a splendid Queen of Briars. And Rill stands up and says something stupid. Yep. He makes a spell that actually looks very cool. Picture Magic Twilight Valhalla. It is a very, very cool, pretty picture against curse warding magic Unbound Slave. But basically, like a bunch of black tendril things kind of shoot out and zap everybody. Gaja or Raja, I always forget this character's name, shows up and he says, true lightning magic, Nadaras do Astraza! And he's like, yes, when you said you would never learn attack spells, I decided I would become the strongest offensive mage in the Heart Kingdom in order to destroy our enemies. And it just gets fucking stabbed through the chest by evil Lolo Pachika, which is pretty sad. And Noelle just says, everyone! And then all of her magic fades away, and her spirit dive has come undone. And
somehow she gets more clothes.
Yes, that is the weird way it works. She has pants now, which is, I guess, an upgrade to that spell failing. And Magicula just says, you lose. She doesn't say it like the virtual fighter announcer would, but
you lose. This is a pretty good chapter in terms of establishing, oh shit's screwed now. What are they gonna do? How are them Duke boys gonna get out of this? But and I do like a couple of the details here and there. I do like that Megakula actually establishes like this is why I'm getting stronger and this is what means that I'm going to fully arise now. And I do actually really like when Raja goes to attack Lolopeshka, but he hesitates. Like he's like, I've been training for all of this, but then he sees her and he can't help but think of who Lolopeshka actually is, and that moment's hesitation lets her strike him down and probably kill him. Yeah, I don't really see any way that they're getting out of this situation unless someone else just saves their butts. So
I assume someone else is going to. I don't know who it is at this point, but I imagine someone else is going to show up and help take her down. I hope Tabata is taking care of himself, though. This is another one of those really short chapters, only 11 pages long, so hopefully he's taking good care of himself.
There's a lot of details and a lot of the designs on stuff.
Yeah.
So
it actually felt like a full chapter at least, so that's a good thing.
All right, we're gonna conclude things then with One Piece chapter 1018, Jimbei versus Who's Who.
I just had a moment where I was like looking at the chapter number and I was like, in my One Piece reread, I'm like on chapter 800 something. Like I still have 200 chapters of this fucking series to go.
And apparently has been going very well, by the way. If you should follow Chris on Twitter at RoloT. He's been tweeting about his rereading. He just finished up Dressrosa recently and had a lot of nice, in retrospect, insights to give.
Yes.
So some of the headliners that, of course, have fallen to the millet dumplings that are now joining with the samurai army. A bunch of people see Tama and are like, maybe if we kill her, all this magic will be undone. So of course Usopp's like, we've got to protect her, and he picks her up and starts running away with Nami. Fortunately, of course, having a bunch of gifters on their side means that they can cover their escape. Daifugo, the scorpion guy, helps out. There's a kind of cute moment where he takes out some of them, and then Tom is like, "Oh, hi, Daifugo," and he just goes thumbs up to her. That's it. Horse Lena arrives at that moment, and Tama and Nami get on her back because she starts speeding away with them. Usopp's like, "What about me?" and has to run after them because he's Usopp.
Yes.
One of the goat, I believe he was a goat guy, is running along with them, and he says that, yeah, we saw Komochio knocked out before, but we took care of it. Don't worry about it. And then so they're like, oh man, it's great that we've got new friends on the battlefield. And Zeus comes out of Nami's climate act and says, "Can I be your servant like before, Nami?" And Nami's like, "What do you mean? No. But what do you say to sidekick?" She gives him a little wink. He's like, "Aw, that's nice." And he starts, clearing the path for them, zapping people with his electricity and stuff. We see a little bit more of the conflict and then cut away to all of the observers of all of this. And they say that, when you add 1,000 traders and casualties each, the difference between them drops. It was 30,000 to 20,000, but now it's 16,000 versus 9,000. And white may grow further depending on the gifter's efforts. Whichever side wins does not matter to us, but there is one death we must confirm before this is over. And another one of them says, "Are you sure it's him? That classified intelligence he ran off with was old, and there's no real harm to the government." But one of them says, "Yeah, but it doesn't set a good precedent to say that you can escape from us and live to tell the tale." Assuming he does survive, he is fighting Jinbei after all. And of course, they are talking about who's right-hand man. I don't know, one of the unimportant guys that shot Jinbei before, maybe.
I think they're talking about who's who themselves.
I don't know. Okay, so then we get a fight scene.
Yes.
For the rest of the chapter. So who is using the various CP9 abilities. He uses Moonwalk to dash around through the air. And Jinbei's like, "So you were telling me that thing before in the last chapter. Do you bear a grudge against Luffy?" And Who says, "Well, my grudge is technically against the person who stole the Gum Gum fruit, red-haired Shanks." He fires a fang pistol where he bites and it launches an energy version of his chomping teeth out at Jinbei. And Jinbei tries to be a cool badass and knock one of them aside with his armament hockey, but the fang draws blood even through it. So this is a serious attack that he's fending off now. And Who starts launching bite blast things, his fang pistol, while talking, which must be very difficult. So you just, "But both the straw already." But he points out that Luffy has, inherited some stuff from Shanks, so of course he's passed on the grudge to Luffy as well, and anyone associated with him. These bites are crazy because they're even going through the floor and affecting people on the floor below them. And Who starts mocking Jinbei, saying, "Your color of armament can't even stop my fang pistol. You made the right decision to dodge, because your armament hockey won't stop those fangs from tearing you apart." And then he says, "I'm surprised to see how quickly you move on land, Jinbei. For a fish man." And Jinbei says, "Don't you know casual racism against fishmen is out of style these days?"
It's, he had a show on NBC and it just got canceled. You can't say that stuff nowadays. Who's who? What's going on, man? You know what's up. You know the environment you're in. Now, he says he had taken too much Ambien before this fight, so he just wasn't really himself.
50 years ago, we would have had you, all that shit. So, Who says, "Well, there's something I wanted to ask you." And he uses an iron body ability and then launches himself towards Jinbei using Fang Flash. And he just charges really quickly and just tries to bite Jinbei, who huddles up behind his arm in hockey. Jinbei is driven backward by the force of the charge. He's like jammed his arms between who's fangs in such a way that he can't bite him. And then he pivots and hip tosses him onto his fucking ass with a fishman jujutsu technique. Then he launches some water shot things, but who dodges, I believe, is what Shave is. He like flash steps away, I think. Who says, yeah, anyway, the question I wanted to ask before I tried to eat you, literally, it's about a story I heard in the jail from a guard. While I was there undergoing terrible torments, he laughed and told me to pray. Apparently there was a figure that slaves would pray to in the long distant past, a legendary warrior who believed one day they would free him. The sun god Nika. Did he exist, or did they just dream him up? They thought he'd bring smiles to their faces and deliver them from suffering. My time in prison felt so endless that I actually clung to that strange legend of theirs. Save me, I thought. Someone, anyone, charges Jinbei again and is launching punches, I think, at him. And Jinbei's like, why the hell are you asking me about this? This is a really strange question to ask in the middle of a fight. And Husu says, because you were in charge of the Sun Pirates. And I heard that they were former slaves in that crew. And what is Fishman's history but the history of slavery? Or was this all a diversion? Because now he gets a claw out of each of his pointer fingers and he starts launching finger pistols from point blank range, and he's just really fiercely and rapidly jabbing his fingers into Jinbei's body from all different angles. His men are looking on, are like, oh my god, he's gonna jab him out, he's gonna get him. Yeah, our Tobi Rappo is stronger even than a former warlord. Husu keeps talking while he...
Yes, well, he's got a lot of exposition to deliver this chapter.
It's very comic book fight dialogue, so... but he also says, the prison guard who told me the story of Nika disappeared days later, and so I started thinking I was in danger too, so I risked it all to escape, and that's why I'm here today. Is it deadly to even know about the legend? Fascinating, isn't it? So tell me everything you know! Ow!
I do like this if people point out that in the past it has talked about after he introduced finger guns, a bunch of like parents would write him letters being like, my kid broke my finger trying to do your thing. So he's like, let me show you that you can break your finger doing this, I guess.
Apparently, he hit at the wrong angle or Jinbei's stronger now. I don't know. I think that he just got him from the wrong angle, because if you're doing like that, then it shouldn't jam backwards that way. Oh well. So, but from there, Husu reels back after both of his pointer fingers have broken against Jinbei's hard defense. Jinbei grabs him by both wrists and uses Fishman Karate shark grip and just cracks his wrists and says, I have nothing to say to the likes of you. So Husu tries to react by kicking Jinbei, I think, in the head. He tries
to do a kick.
And then he tries to launch a point blank fang pistol from right in front of him, and the fang pistol digs into Jinbei's head, and Jinbei responds by backing up so that he can punch Husu. And he uses a Fishman Karate secret art technique while stepping on Husu's tail as he tries to run away from it. And Jinbei says, if you're going to run your mouth about history, be ready for what you're stepping into first. And he uses Demon Brick Fist to punch Husu right in the nose and knock him on his ass. And that is where our chapter ends.
Yeah, it's a fucking dope ass chapter for Jinbei. Yeah. This is also like the first. I guess we also kind of got a little bit of Frankie versus Sasaki, but this is like the first time we've gotten like a full straight chapter just devoted to a Straw Hat fighting somebody else in like a one-on-one fight since Dressrosa. So it's pretty cool to have that. I liked it. There's a little bit of lore stuff. I imagine the Nika Sun God stuff is the part that's relevant. And then all the other stuff about like, he's a former CP9, or like just kind of fluff for the world.
Yeah. So this was good stuff. We actually had, I think, a fair number of pretty damn good chapters this week.
Yeah.
So we had a good fight scene. We had whatever World Trigger was. We had the cool conclusion to the Elusive Samurai arc. Yeah, so that is it. That's it for the manga this week. I guess we should go through our favorites. What was the best series? What's the MVP? Who's the MVP?
Best series, I'm going to give to One Piece. I think the One Piece had a really cool fight chapter this week. I really thought Jinbei came out looking cool. Can't give him my character of the week, but I'm going to give him my my chapter of the week, basically.
I'm going to give mine to Nine Dragons Ball Parade.
Okay.
It's a good conclusion to the sports story thing. You know, we got to see, in this sequence, all the important characters do a little contribution to it. And I thought that it was just like, hey, this is satisfying. And it was nice to have that little moment between Hibuse and his teammate. And yeah, so it's good stuff.
Yeah.
My MVP though is gonna be Spring from Undead Unluck because he's great.
Yeah, that's my character of the week as well. I really, really enjoyed that. Spring was awesome.
Do we have votes from the
Yeah,
listeners?
the audience picked Magu-chan Goddess Structure as their chapter of the week and Jinbei as the character of the week.
Both good choices, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, we want to thank you for joining us here for Weekly Manga Recap. We record the show on twitch.tv/RoloT live on Wednesday evenings, usually starting around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. However, you can stay updated on that stuff, on exactly when we're going live, both by following your hosts at NickFTime, at RoloT, and the podcast at WMR Podcast. And you can also get word when it goes live through our Discord server. We mentioned that before. People can participate in conversations regarding the series that we're going to cover as a recommendation. Whenever the series that come out weekly get released, there's a nice big conversation that happens in another section. There are bi-weekly gaming nights that are held amongst our great community. And you can also use that to find the document maintained by Ninja X3i that keeps track of all sorts of statistics associated with the show, MVP voting, recommended series that we've done, all that kind of stuff. And recommended series where you can leave a recommendation, such as...
So, Nick, we had to say goodbye to one sports series, but I wanted to follow it up by talking about another one in its place. Now, Nick, what are some of the most iconic sports out there?
Well, usually you see baseball covered in a lot of manga because it's very popular in Japan. Basketball, there's been a few. Soccer, quite a few as well. Fly fishing.
More obscure than fly fishing, one might say.
Life or death billiards where the balls are bombs.
That'd be a more exciting sport for sir. Nick, we're going to be talking about Destroy All of Humanity. It Can't Be Regenerated, the Magic the Gathering romance series.
No.
We're going to go for it. I heard this one's fun. I just love the name more than anything.
Yeah, okay. So that'll be what we cover in a week or two. We'll see how long it takes. We might get through that in 1 week. Okay. But in the meantime, we want to extend our thanks to you guys, our community. We want to extend thanks to our Patreon supporters for allowing us to create bonus content for you guys to enjoy. You can check out a new bonus podcast that we recorded very recently. It's a special edition of Weekly Manga Recap Lives, where we cover the best of chapters as voted by you, our community, the best chapters of 2020.
Yes.
And we want to extend special thanks to Steve Mann, our title artist. You can check out his work on certain video versions, the video versions of certain episodes as they are posted to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/weeklymangarecap, where you can listen to our show in video format, in addition to all the places that it's posted in audio form, like weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, iTunes, Spotify, all places where a podcast can really be listened to, basically. And you can check out Steve Mann's artwork wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet.
Yes.
Steve Mann.
I wanted to, real quick before I forget, I wanted to specifically mention that the initial recommender of the Destroy All Humanity Can't Be Regenerated was Tropical.
Ah.
So if it's bad, we know who to blame. That's
right,
why we bring
tropical
those up.
scents.
Yeah.
What am I forgetting?
Milo Jack Stillets
and
and
Wednesday
Wednesday
Cheddar.
Cheddar.
Bringing the opening sequence of Weekly Manga Recap as is used in the video versions of every episode. So
Yes. Yep. So stay tuned. We got some cool stuff coming up very soon, and that's good to it right now, guys. Anything we want to throw out there at the end, Nick?
my voice is tired and I want water.
All right, there we go. Goodbye, everybody.